evening. This is the Public Facilities, Arts, and Culture meeting for Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. I'm going to take a quick roll. Myself, the Chair Bradford is here. Councilmember Henderson, Councilmember Van Rees, Councilmember Syracuse, Councilmember Young. I do detect a quorum. We only have two bills on our agenda today, and if there's no questions, I've got them both on consent. I've got RS 2022-1400, Sepulveda, Allen, Withers, Bradford. This approves an option agreement between the Metro government and James and Edith McClendon, authorizing the purchase of certain parcels of property owned by the McClendons at 0 Tusculum Road, 0 Tusculum Road, and 0 Bar Drive. RS 2022-1401, Allen and Bradford, accepts an in-kind grant from the Centennial Park Conservancy to the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation to fund the restoration of the Parthenon marble casts in the Treasury Room, and for that we do have a letter to approve from Councilmember Allen. So without any objections, can I get a motion on the consent calendar?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of consent calendar say aye.
Aye.
Any against? All right, we do have a special guest, Ms. Louise C. Bryant from the Nashville Parks Foundation. She's got a brief little presentation to give us about Parks Foundation, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, I'm the new president and CEO of the Nashville Parks Foundation, took over in November, and I've just put together a few pages from our new website that's about to launch, as well as pieces of a presentation that I made to Metro Parks Board. But the first thing is that we have a leave behind card. We typically had not had any materials at all, and Nancy Van Rees said, could you just leave us with something? And I thought it was a great idea. So Nashville Parks Foundation exists for Metro Parks. We were founded in 2015, and we exist to enhance the parks and recreation centers in Metro. We exist for you. That's all that we do. That's all we try to do. So the relationship between your committee and us is really important and critical. Just in the last 5 minutes, I learned something that I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been here. So that's wonderful. People are surprised to know that Nashville has 178 parks and 27 community centers. It's broad, it's vast. And my contact information is on the back of the card. Again, we have a new website. It's not launched yet, but it's going to be launched. It's open right now. But and my phone number. Call me or text me at any time. We'd love to have a conversation. Right now, what are we doing? We're trying to generate awareness. We are funded partially by a piece of ticket sales from Live Nation at the amphitheater, and at the Sand Amphitheater. During COVID, there were 0 shows, so we had 0 money. So we're trying to relaunch on a very limited budget, but it's working. We are developing a new business plan, and we're trying to diversify our funding for that one reason. We are collaborating really closely with friends groups who are very active on the local level. And my goal is that every park actually has a friends group. And one of the things I'd like to do is create a workshop during the year to help community organizations and neighborhood stakeholders learn how to build a friends group. Because there's only good things can happen when more people on the local level are engaged. And then, we live in Nashville, so there's a lot of glossy, exciting things happening along the Cumberland River, but at the end of the day, there's about $80 million in deferred maintenance, and we recognize that. So, as I said, right now, the concerts are back. That's pretty exciting. We have a very engaged board. The parks are more important than ever. If we learned anything during the past 2 years, people want to get outside. They are outside. The parks have taken a lot of impact. People want to get back to nature, and the parks never closed. The parks are open every single day, and it's going to be part of a marketing that we're going to share with the public, is that the parks are open every day. It's really exciting. We have had a lot of great achievements in the past few years, as well as since 2015. The Watkins Pump Track was finished just last year, and it was an iconic example of public-private partnership, and very, very exciting, just outside of the Watkins Community Center. A pump track is where kids and adults go and ride their mountain bike and they have to pump all the way on top of these berms and hills, and it's very exciting. Skateboarders love it for that action as well. More recently, I spent a morning at the park at Madison Station Boulevard. We should all be moving to Madison. How exciting to build a park from the ground up and have a pedestrian pathway, a bike pathway, a well-thought-out new park, anchored by other organizations and stakeholders. So exciting, just terribly exciting. Centennial Park Train, a little bit on the older side, but it's being restored right now. We're going to start looking for a new home for it. And then programming. We continue to give support to the community centers. Just today in the park board meeting, we had approved a $25,000 grant that'll come to this committee next month for approval for programming. A lot of exciting things happening in the community centers, again, more important than ever. We're about to finish this Elmington Park tennis court renovation. This was a private donor who was looking for a way to resurface courts in his neighborhood. He wanted kids to have a better conditioned courts, and it's about to be finished. This is our board, just for your information, who's who. I won't go through that, but I'll leave you with that. And this is actually Metro. This is the scope of Metro Parks and Greenways by the numbers. And I think that the stats are just incredible and exciting for Nashville as we grow. Of course, it's not growing as fast as the population is growing and the housing is growing, but that's part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to advocate for the parks, for the green space, and have a connection to greenways and the other recreational facilities that are in Nashville and Davidson County.
Well, I really appreciate you coming in and explaining this to everybody on the committee. And as we spoke when we had our meeting, I'm really glad that you're wanting to focus on friends groups. I know we've had conversations in previous versions of this board about how to get friends groups started, and there's been conversation and talk about, or a perception that it's typically the parks and more well-to-do parts of town that have the friends groups. And so kind of get that information out there and educate and let people know here's what we need to do, and having a partner with the Parks Foundation would be great with that. Any questions for Ms. Bryant from the committee?
I'd just like to indicate how enjoyable it's been to be kind of in the transition from the, I guess really autumn, of last year until now, working the last 8 months on the plans for the park at Madison Station Boulevard. All of you guys on your desk out in the chambers kind of have the schematic designs that we got to that point of. That was not possible without a grant from the Parks Foundation. So I thank you again for that, and for their collaboration with the Memorial Foundation to kind of get it to the point to where it's ready to build. And that's the kind of thing that all of us have access to. So we know somebody that would love to give $100, $1,000, $10,000 to make something better. Where do they put it? And it's like you can give it to the foundation and it ends up in the right spot. And so I think that the more creative we are as council members in regard to specific plan developments and in little pocket parks that can be moved over, and then Parks is very concerned about maintenance of those parks. It's like forming friends groups kind of helps kind of take the anxiety off of the Parks Department, so that if we can do that from the get-go, as you will, as we look at new pocket parks in general, to have a friends group at the same time kind of come alongside that could be a way that we can actually start building more parks more quickly.
So I can't tell. I'm sorry, Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't really tell the demographics of your board. How many people of color?
We have 2 people of color, and we are currently at.
And they are.
And we have asks out to 2 other people of color.
Right, I'm saying, who are the existing?
Okay, it's Kabir, Kabir Sandhu, and Christy Smith.
Is Christy Smith black?
She is not black. I do not.
Smith is Asian, I believe.
Right.
Asian American.
Okay. Reason why I was asking, because I'm looking at the $25,000 for programming at Hartman and for a music studio at Hartman and at Hadley Park, and a citywide youth event organized by Metro Parks, and to support programs. So if you took those four and divided that into the 25,000, and you're looking at about $6,250, $6,125 each for these programs. And, I'm just not real sure if the foundation is serving the parks that evenly, that we have here in Nashville. I'm excited about the things that are being done in Madison. I used to be a resident of Madison, and I'm really happy to see those things. And I've also been made aware of some of the bathroom conditions at the Sportsplex. That's very concerning to me. And I know Councilman Taylor went over and confirmed that they were in some deplorable shape. So, I appreciate how wonderful these metrics look and what we have here, but it concerns me what happens when you pull back the onion on a lot of these things and how certain areas are neglected.
Well, we have,
And the reason why I say that and I asked about the board members is because you may have board members who are culturally sensitive and they know and understand some of the concerns that people at those particular facilities may have as it relates to their environment.
well, thank you. That's so important to me to hear. I really appreciate that. And I can tell you that the reason for this foundation is to provide equitable access to parks. This grant for these community centers was directly at the request of Director Odom and Assistant Director Stefan Nilens. I've worked with them with a great amount of detail over the past 3 months to get this done. And so this is exactly what Director Odom and Stefan wanted to do. They are both people of color. They are
Right, I
both
do.
Black.
I know that. I know both of them.
So,
But
I mean,
did they ask specifically for 25,000, or did they ask for grant funding?
no, they asked for more than that, but we didn't have any funding at all because we had zero funding last year because there were no concerts at all at the pandemic. And I'm working for half a salary for the next year so that we can try to get to a break-even point. So they asked for 48,000. I found a personal donor to put some of this, and then we matched it with with the rest from our net assets. But this is directly what Director Odom and Stefan wanted us to work on, down to the music studio, down to the community center, and down to the event. This is exactly what Director
Oh, I
Odom
know
wanted.
they are very much in need of it. I'm not questioning that at all. I'm just talking about the lack of funding.
So what I'm hearing is, you were asked for a certain amount and you would love to have given that, but because of the current conditions, this is the most you could have done.
Right, we had a deficit last year. That's correct, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Henderson.
I also wanted to make the point that the Parks Foundation is very new, right? So, I mean, as a concept, and I know in our time, I know Councilman Syracuse and I have thought of some various, strategic initiatives from a development or fundraising perspective. We're like, oh, let's do that. That would be easy. That would be great for the Parks Foundation. But you all have had a fair amount of volatility in your leadership, trying to kind of get their legs under them and get started, and with the pandemic. So I would say that in concept, right, what we all hope the Parks Foundation can do, being that conduit for whether a bunch of dog lovers want to donate to dog-related things, or kind of thematic campaigns, certain areas of town. There's just a whole host of things that can be done in that development space to be responsive to communities all across the city to kind of build up that funding. And my impression of kind of being like, well, where's the Parks Foundation, or who's the person, or wait, they don't have a director, or what happened with that? Like, in our term or 2 term, like, it just really hasn't, it's been there, but it hasn't been there. So I would hope that we would kind of give Ms. Bryan the time to kind of, build it back up. I appreciate you being here so much, and, your concerns are well, well said. I think, we need to give them some time to.
Oh, I appreciate her and the efforts and her diligence in finding the funds when there's none there, because I understand where you have been there, done that. So, but just having the consciousness and knowing and understanding is basically my
Well, and,
Absolutely.
So
and I've got a question that kind of follows along with that. So your board of directors, how are they selected? Is this a mayoral appointment to this board, or is it?
It is not.
So it's completely
This is
separate
a
from Metro?
Private
Okay.
charity, that's correct. It
So,
is.
I having this conversation, having you here, I think it's helpful that going forward as board positions open up, Ms. Bryant is aware of the lack of diversity on the board and can start seeking out additional members to help make that balance and help bring, not just, when I say diversity, not just black, white, people of color, LGBT, but also diversity of geography, like making sure that you've got people from all across the county on this board, and that the board isn't, everybody is from downtown or from Green Hills, because there's parks all over the city that need that, having that diversity there.
There may be some term-limited council members that would be excellent board member opportunities.
Well, I see Charlie Target is one, so Charlie Target is one.
I would absolutely welcome any suggestions you have. Sometimes it's a struggle to get board members that you want. But again, we currently have 2 active asks out to black people.
Well,
Just to let you know. It's something I'm
Good.
definitely working on.
Good to know. Do we have any other questions for, go ahead, Councilmember.
Not for Ms. Bryan, but I wondered if we could get an update from the Parks Board today, particular to our greenways.
Sure. Today, the Parks Board heard the recommendation from the Greenways and Open Space Commission regarding e-bikes and the e-bike study.
And what was the recommendation?
And the recommendation was 2 parts. One, that at this time, the commission did not recommend any changes to the e-bike rules in Metro, because they didn't feel like they had enough information in regards to safety on our own Nashville greenways. And in that regard, they asked for us to do a deeper study, not just about e-bikes, but because the system's 30 years old, to look at the system as a whole and how it operates. So collecting data, user data, safety data, trail design, where we're going from here, just a holistic look. And they approved that recommendation from the commission.
And will that include structural considerations, like widening the greenways in certain areas where we have capacity issues?
It will look at all of those things. I mean, that's what I would anticipate.
Great, thank you, Ms. Harrison, appreciate it.
Thanks for the reminder on that. Any other questions for any of our guests? All right, then we stand adjourned.
Hey, Angie, how are you?